Chris Tanev block a shot like he did on Monday like that?
A lot of concern to start with. And then you see him after the game and you realize that, okay, he's going to be okay. Now it's the extent of his injury. And for whatever reason, he's in pretty good shape, and it's weird to me. But, there's the way he plays the game, he's got total disregard for his own body for the betterment of his team. And if you had everybody on your group that had a little bit of what he's got, like he's that important of a person in our locker room. So you never want to see a guy try to block a shot with his face, but that's Chris. And he's got tons of respect in the room because of how he plays the game.
Do you expect he's good to go for tomorrow?
As of now, I haven't talked to Kent afterwards to see how he's responded and all that stuff, but he's looking pretty good.
Ryan, you're just past the quarter mark of the regular season. What's the biggest difference, or what are the biggest differences in this team in November compared to October?
Yeah, I think when you look at our game in October, there was a lot of, and I don't necessarily want to call it individual play, but we made a lot of mistakes with the puck that caused us a lot of problems, and because we weren't really connected yet with how we wanted to play, they were glaring mistakes that often either ended up in our net or led to a lot of momentum coming the other way. And I think we've been able to flip that a little bit over the last little while, where we're much more connected. So if there is a breakdown, we have people where they should be. And I think that's been a big thing. But I've also seen the work ethic and the compete from them. You can probably look at the last 10 games, maybe one of them where they haven't really been driving hard. So they're coming to play every night too, which is a real positive sign.
Were you anticipating there could be an adjustment under you in October?
Yes, we didn't ever anticipate we'd have the stretch that we did have. Like, you don't want to ever go through that. Unfortunately, we did, but the one positive thing with it is how the guys have responded, and they keep pushing and working to get better, and that's what we ask of them every day. So they're doing what we're asking of them.
And where do you want to see the most improvement in order to stay in the playoff hunt?
Yeah, I think that's...
There's been a lot of talk about the power play, but I'm sure there's other things too.
Well, that is the one big thing right now, right? It's glaring, and we have to get to the point where it's not going to score all the time, but it's got to generate you some positive momentum. And I felt last game it did that. Prior games it hadn't. So it's getting them to realizing that they're good players that are out there, and they're out there for a reason. And being out there means you have a lot of responsibility as well, because we believe in you for one, and your teammates need you to do the job the right way. So they understand that. They want to be better than they've been, and now it's a matter of going out and doing it.
Huska, 8 times in the last 11 games, the team has come from behind to pick up at least a point, if not 2. I know in a perfect world you like to lead from start to finish in every game, but what does that say about this team, and what can that do for this team?
Well, they believe they're always in games. That's one thing. And then you're right. You want to play with the lead more so. Like, we'd like to flip that script a little bit and hold on to leads. But I think they do have a belief in how we're trying to play the game a little bit now. And they're never out of it. And I think they realize that. So they keep pushing. And that's important. Because, hey, every game's not going to go the way you want it to go for a full 60 minutes. So if you can stick with it, knowing that if we do things the right way and we stay competitive and work, you're going to get a chance to win, then they're going to keep doing that.
Ryan, what can Jordan really bring your team back up with him now?
He's the strength of Jordan is his speed, his foot speed. Like, he can really skate. So he can put himself in positions where he can get to pucks first. And that's the one thing that we want from him, is to now make the right hard play with the puck. So he went down and he did a good job for the Wranglers. And in talking to Trent, the last 6 to 8 games, he's been their most consistent guy. So it's not an easy thing to do for a guy that's been in the NHL for a long period of time to go back to the American League, but he did it the right way. So it's a credit to him, and now it's up to him to make sure that he's competitive in those situations, so then we can use him more so than we were before.
Brian, it's not that often you get a guy on waivers who then becomes a guy that you don't often take out of your lineup. What's made AJ Greer that guy for you?
He plays the hard game. I think that's maybe the best way to put it for me. Like, his details are very good defensively. You think of people that block shots on our team from our forward group, it's AJ and it's Blake Coleman. And he understands who he is. So he's a very straight line player that goes to the net hard. He knows what he has to bring to the game. And I think a lot of that comes from where he came from. We've talked before about the organizations that he's come from, where he understands in order for him to stay in the lineup, how do I have to play the game? And he's come here and he's done a really good job at that. But he's comfortable playing hard hockey, and that's really what we need. So for me, he drives that line, and when he's doing it the right way, he's a guy that we can bump up as well.
You won a defensive battle on Monday, and you won an offensive battle last Friday. I guess, how were those two games in this team's psyche?
The Vegas game to me was an important one. Like, we gave up some chances that game. That's one thing we did for sure. But that road trip we came back from was a tougher road trip, and it's hard at times. I hate to say it, but the players sometimes when they come back after those trips, that game's a tough one to play in, and I thought we worked that game, and that to me was the most important thing. It was a good sign for our group that they dug in against a team that's hard to play against. So for me, that was the most important game. It's nice for confidence-wise to score some goals in Dallas. What we have to keep working on is not allowing as many.
Is this team still forming in your mind?
I think it still is. I think it forms all year long, every day. There's little different pieces that get put together all through the course of the year. So we're trying to build on those things every day. Yeah.
You're in a stretch of these games against some pretty top-tier teams with that carrot of playoff spots there as opposed to when you're 31st. Is it easier to coach at that point because there's so many reasons to have their attention, or does it impact anything at all?
I think it's in regards to getting their attention when you're winning and having some success, it's a little bit easier for sure. But also when you play the teams that are perceived to be the top teams, there's an element of fear when you're playing against them that if we're not at our very best, we might not come out on the right side, or it might not be a pretty game. So I think the better teams in the league bring the best out of you, and that's what I think is what we're seeing right now.
Well, just to go back to AJ Greer a little bit, what have you seen in the details of his game that have helped transition or translate to the offensive side? He's sitting at 4 goals in 21 games. He had 5 in 61 last year. Yeah,
in limited minutes too, really, when you look at it. He's around a 10-minute a night guy. And I'll go back to what he does in our zone. He's positionally sound, and he doesn't look to be an east-west guy when he's approaching the blue line. He's smart enough to create space for himself, but he enters the zone with speed a lot of times. So you see the goal that he scored, like Cads makes the move, but he's just going to the net, and the puck ends up on his stick, and he's got a good enough skill set that he knows what to do with things. So I just feel like it's his package right now where he knows who he is, he knows how he has to play, and he's been rewarded because of that.
Ryan, we're just doing a quick profile on Connor Zary. Maybe talk a little bit about his progress so far this year, because he's had a very solid rookie season.
Yeah, he's had a good start with us for sure. He's got a lot of confidence with the puck right now. That's one thing you can say about Connor, and he's built some chemistry with Naz along the way. I think the challenge for a younger guy is to make sure that he's doing that consistently each and every night. So if you look at the games that he's had off games, two were back-to-backs where it's hard on a younger guy understanding how they have to play in those situations, and then probably the last one against Vegas where it's a bigger, heavier team. So for a young guy to learn how do I have to play against these teams or in these situations, a big part of his development, so he can be the guy that is creating and making plays every time he's on the ice, no matter the situation, and that's part of maturing and growing for sure.